everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kendra and today I'm going to be doing my May book buzz. This is a series that I do on my channel where I go through all of the books that I'm interested in that come out this particular month, and I'll be going through all of the books in different categories, and I'll just give a brief synopsis or a tagline from the synopsis. And like I said, there's the books that I'm just interested in. Doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and purchase them or whatnot. I'm just interested in them, and hopefully in the future I can read some of these. So the first category I'm going to go through is all the romances, and the first one that I want to talk about is The Modern Gentleman by Megan Quinn. And the synopsis on this one says, have you ever hit rock bottom? I embarrassingly have. It's why I'm wearing my girl's decorative scarf over my head, clenching her lady drink to my chest, and singing ever so softly to Johnny Mitchell while swaying back and forth. This is what therapists refer to as losing it. Oldest story in the book: boy meets girl, boy falls for girl, boy screws up massively, girl tells boy to suffocate in the fruits of his very own unborn children. And this one sounds like it's going to be a great second chance romance, and I'm really excited to check it out. The next one I want to talk about is Love the One You Hate by R.S. Gray, and the synopsis on this one says, Nicholas Hunt is a man I hate for good reason. His opinion of me is tainted by prejudice even before my arrival at his grandmother's estate, and my first impression of him is just as abysmal. His arrogance and icy demeanor make it clear that he's the type of man who's best handled at a distance. Fortunately, space shouldn't be an issue inside the Gilded Age mansion and its lush gardens. If I stick with the servants and he keeps to a sailboat and vintage Porsche, we should hardly cross paths at all. Unfortunately, at Rosethorn, I find that all roads eventually lead to Nicholas Hunt. We hang suspended in our hatred of one another, painfully oblivious to the heat and tension that build with every moment we've left alone. We're liable to kill one another, I think, right up until my eyes land on his lips and a new feeling grips hold of me: lust. So this is an enemies to lovers, and I love that trope so much, and I really love R.S. Gray as well, so I'm really excited to read this one. The next one I want to talk about is The Trouble with Hating You by Sanji Patel, and this one is about Laya. She is a successful biochemical engineer, takeout enthusiast, and happily single woman. The moment she realizes her parents' latest dinner party is a setup with a man they want her to marry, she's out the back door in a flash. Imagine her surprise when the same guy shows up at her office a week later, the new lawyer hired to save her struggling company. What's not surprising? He's too thrilled to see her either. So this one sounds like it's going to be so much fun and an office romance I'm always up to reading. So I'm really excited to check this one out. The next one that I'm going to talk about is Love on Beach Avenue by Jennifer Probus, and this is the first book in the Sunshine Sisters series, and this one is about Avery. Sunshine might not have a soulmate of her own, but she believes in happily ever after for her clients. Making dreams come true is her business at Sunshine Bridal, which she runs with her two sisters. When her best friend announces her engagement, Avery is thrilled to take charge of the giddy bride-to-be's big day. Less thrilling, her best friend's arrogant and demanding brother, who just so happens to be the man of honor. So this one sounds like it's going to be so good, and I do like books that are set around weddings, so I'm really interested in checking this one out. The next book that I want to talk about is The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Morgenthaler, and this is the first book in the Moose Springs, Alaska series. The synopsis on this one says, when Graham Barnett named his diner the Tourist Trap, he meant it as a joke. Now he's stuck slinging reindeer dogs to an endless parade of resort visitors who couldn't interest him less. Not even the sweetest enthusiast tourist in the corner who blushes every time he looks her way. 2 weeks in Alaska isn't just the top item of Zoe Caudell's bucket list, it's the whole bucket. One look at the mountain town of Moose Springs and she's smitten. But when an act of kindness brings Zoe into Graham's world, she may just find there's more to the grumpy local than meets the eye, and more to love in Moose Springs than just the Alaskan wilderness. This one sounds like it's going to be super cute. I love books that are set in Alaska, and this one sounds like it's just going to be really cute. The next book that I want to talk about is The Hunter by L.J. Shin. This is the first book in the Boston Belle series, and the synopsis on this one says, I didn't mean to star in a sex tape, okay? It was just one of those unexplainable things like Stonehenge, Police Academy 2, and Morning Glory Cloud. clouds. It just happened. Now my ball-busting father is sentencing me to 6 months of celibacy, sobriety, and morbid boredom under the roof of Boston's nerdiest girl alive, Sailor Brennan. The virginal archer is supposed to babysit my ass while I learn to take my place in Royal Pipelines, my family's oil company. Little does she know that's not the only pipe I'll be laying. This one definitely sounds like it's going to be really good and real steamy, and I'm really excited to check it out. The next book I'm going to talk about is Protecting You by Claire Kingsley, and this is the first book in the Bailey Brothers series. And the synopsis on this one says, Grace Miles misses her easy friendship with Asher, but growing up means growing apart. And really, how could he fall for her when they spent their childhood getting muddy in the creek and splitting sticks of gum? But this summer, something feels different. If Grace didn't know better, she'd think that Asher was flirting with her. Those dark eyes, hard body, and wicked smile make her inside swirl and her heart dare to hope for things she's convinced herself she'll never have. This one just sounds like it's going to be so good. And this one is a friends and lovers small town romance, which I love both of those tropes, so I'm really excited to check this one out. The next book that I want to talk about is Reckless Memories by COWLES, and this is the first book in the Wrecked series. The synopsis on this one says, I loved him before I knew what the word meant, from skin knees to first dates and everything in between, but he was never mine to love. I settled for friendship even though I always wanted more. That was before he ripped my heart apart and didn't bother sticking around to help me pick up the pieces. I'd knit every last shred back together on my own, and I've all but forgotten his name. Now he's back and everything is torn apart once more, but he's not the only one doing the tearing this time, and there might be no stopping the person who has it out for both of us. So this one sounds like it's going to be so good, and I really want to pick this one up real soon. This next book I'm super excited for. It is Stranger Ranger by Daisy Prescott. This is the second book in the Park Ranger series. I read the first book a couple months ago, absolutely loved it, so I'm really excited to get to this one. But the synopsis on this one says, new Park Ranger Daphne is a reformed good girl breaking free from her overbearing family as soon as she turned 18. She's been on her own ever since. The life of a park ranger moving from park to park suits her just fine. Though still a rule follower, she's okay with a little sin in her life. Every generation of hillmen has its black sheep. The general consensus among the family is that Odin Hill is a lucky bastard this go around. At 17, he blew out of the town like an angry tornado, only to return 15 years later withdrawn and secretive. Living like a recluse in the hollows of the Smoky Mountains, he's happy to keep to himself and is content he let locals believe he's the town weirdo. Odin prefers the company of his pet pig to the noisy citizens of Green Valley. When Daphne discovers Odin might be committing nefarious deeds on park land, she vows to find out the truth behind the handsome yet chaotic loner. Will the stranger help the ranger discover the difference between being good and doing the right thing, or will they find themselves on opposite sides of love? Like I said, I'm super excited to read this one, and I know I'll be reading this one really soon. And this next book I'm also super excited for. This one is Wicked Hearts by Amber Kelly. This is the third book in the popular Falls series, and the synopsis on this one says, my big brother and I landed in the care of my aunt and her husband after my parents died in a tragic accident when I was 3 years old. I grew up smothered by love from a family that knows what the bitter sting of loss feels like. Living under the umbrella afforded me the ability to grow up with the security needed to try my every whim, and I have. Now it's time to figure out who I want to be. My family would love for me to settle down with someone grounded and successful like the sexy new vet in town. I like him, but I am restless. I don't want to be grounded. I want to ride the wind. Walker Reed has worked on my family's ranch for years. He's like a son to Uncle Jeff and my brother's closest friend. He is a sexy devil, drinks too much, and likes to live wild and free. I'm drawn to him. Maybe he'll finally be the one to help me let go and find where I belong. Or maybe my brother will kill us both. Like I said, I'm super excited to read this one. I loved the 2 previous books in this series, so I'm dying to read this book as well. The next book that I want to talk about is A Secret for a Secret by HELENA Hunting, and this is the 3rd book in the All In series, and the synopsis on this one says, my name is Ryan Kingston and I'm a rule follower. I've never been in a fist fight. I always obey the speed limit. I don't get drunk, and I definitely don't pick up random women at bars, except the night I found out that my whole existence has been a lie. I got drunk and picked up a stranger. Her name was Queenie, and she was everything I'm not: reckless, impulsive, and chaotic. We did shots and traded secrets, ended up naked at my place. She left me a thank you note in the morning and her panties as a parting gift, but no way to contact her. 6 weeks later, I'm sitting in the first official team meeting of the season, and there she is. I neglected to mention that I'm a goalie for the Seattle's NHL team, and Queenie, turns out she's the general manager's daughter. So this one sounds so good, and I've seen this one on Instagram recently, so I'm really dying to read this one, and I actually really wanted to read this whole series, so hopefully I can get to the first book really soon. The next book that I want to talk about is Sure Shot by Serena Bowen, and this is the 4th book in the Brooklyn series, and the synopsis on this one says, on the eve of her 30th birthday, sports agent Bess is ready to make some changes. Armed with a 5-year plan, indexed and color-coded, she'll tackle her personal life with the same zeal that she brings to her successful agency. A big, tall, ripped hunk of hockey player who's just been traded to Brooklyn Bruisers is not a part of that plan. Mark Tank has a lot of baggage. He's a ride-or-die loner with a bad reputation. He's on the rebound. He's also the sexiest thing on 2 legs, and for some crazy reason, it's Bess that he wants. She knows better, but then she feels stupid in love with him anyway, and for a while it seems like maybe he'll do the same, until she asks him for the one thing he can never give her. This one sounds really good. I really want to read the first book in the series. I've been wanting to for a while now, so hopefully I can get to that really soon and get to this book hopefully this year. The next book that I want to talk about is Fight for Me by CORINNE Michaels. This is the 2nd book in the Arrowwood Brothers series, and the synopsis on this one says, I fell in love with Sydney Hastings when I was 10 years old. At 16, we whispered promises of forever. When I was 22, I broke them all. I left her and promised never to return. After my father's death, I'm forced to go home to Sugarloaf for 6 months. She'll be everywhere, no longer just my memories and regrets. This one is a second chance romance, and I'm really excited to read this series. And the last book in the romance category is Unforgettable by Melanie Harlow, and this is the 5th book in the Cloverleaf Farms series, and the synopsis on this one says, back then I had it all: wicked fastball, killer instinct, cocky grin, full package. My senior year, I was a first-round draft pick for a $2 million signing bonus. Before I even legally buy myself a beer, I made my major league debut. Point is, I was invincible until the day I wasn't. After taking my cure during the World Series, no less, the last thing I wanted to do is return to my hometown where every jerk in a ball cap has an opinion about what went wrong with my arm. So when my sister drags me back to town for her wedding, I vow to get in and out of there as quickly as possible. Then I run into April Sawyer. In high school, we were just friends, but I always wanted her, and I'd never forgotten her. The red hair, the incredible smile, the crazy, reckless thing we did in the back of my truck the night we said goodbye. It's been 18 years, but one look at her and I feel like my old self again. I can still make her laugh. She can still take me down a notch, and when the chemistry between us explodes, it's even hotter this time around, and I don't want it to end. I've heard amazing things about this series, and I don't know why I still haven't read it, so I really need to get to this series really soon. Next, I'm going to go through all the adult contemporary that I'm interested in, and the first one that I'm interested in, and I also have, is Beach Read by Emily Henry, and this is about Augustus Everett. He is an acclaimed author of literary fiction, and January Andrews writes a best-selling romance. When she pens a happily ever after, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. In fact, the only thing that they have in common is that for the next 3 months, they're living in neighboring beach houses, broke and boggled down with writer's block. And I know that they end up swapping genres and they write each other's novels, so I'm really excited to get to this one, and I've seen this everywhere, so I know I need to read it like this month. The next book that I want to talk about is All Adults Here by Emma Straub, and the synopsis on this one says, when Astrid Strick witnesses a school bus accident in the center of town, it jostles loose a repressed memory from her young parenting days decades earlier. Suddenly, Astrid realizes she is not quite the parent she thought she'd been to her 3 now-grown children. This one was also a Book of the Month pick, and I didn't choose it. Now I'm kind of kicking myself for it, but this one does sound really good. The next next book that I want to talk about is Big Summer by Jennifer Weiner, and the synopsis on this one says, 6 years after the fight that ended their friendship, Daphne Berg is shocked when Drew Kavanaugh walks back into her life looking as lovely and successful as ever with a massive favor to ask. Daphne hasn't spoken one word to Drew in all this time. She doesn't even hate follow her ex-best friend on social media. So when Drew asks if she will be her maid of honor at the society wedding of the summer, Daphne is rightfully speechless. This one just sounds like it's going to be a really good summer read, and I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next book that I want to talk about is Happy You Know It by Laura Hankin, and the tagline on this one says, a group of wealthy mothers and the young musician who takes a job singing to their babies and finds herself pulled into their glamorous lives and dangerous secrets. This was also another book of the month pick, and like I said, I'm kind of kicking myself for not picking this one up either, so hopefully I can get to this one soon. And the last book that I'm going to talk about in the adult contemporary section is Family for Beginners by Sarah Morgan, and this one is about New York florist Flora Donovan is living the dream, but her bubbly optimism hides a secret. She's lonely. Orphaned as a child, she's never felt like she's belonged anywhere until she meets Jack Parker. He's the first man to ever really see her, and it's life-changing. Teenager Izzy Parker is holding it together by her fingertips. Since her mother passed away a year ago, looking after her father and little sister is the only thing that makes Izzy feel safe. Discovering her father has a new girlfriend is the worst nightmare. She is not in the market for a replacement mom. Then her father invites Flora on their summer vacation. This one sounds like it's going to be really good, and I'm really hoping I can read this one soon. Next, I'm going to go through all of the historical fiction. The first one is The Paris Hours by Alex George, and the synopsis on this one says, one day in the City of Lights, one night in search of lost time. Paris between the wars teams with artists, writers, and musicians, a glittering crucible of genius, but amidst the dazzling creativity of the city's most famous citizens, 4 regular people are each searching for something they've lost. I've heard amazing things about this one, and I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next book that I want to talk about is The Library of Legends by Janie Chang, and this one is a captivating historical novel in which a convoy of student refugees travel across China, fleeing the hostilities of a brutal war with Japan. I've never read anything set in this region of the world, so I'm really excited to pick this one up, and I will be reading this one this month because I am participating in a buddy read on Instagram, so I'm really excited to get to this one. The next one I want to talk about is Daughter of the Reich by Louise Fien, and the synopsis on this one says, as the dutiful daughter of a high-ranking Nazi officer, Hedy Heinrich is keen to play her part in the glorious new 1,000-year Reich. But she never imagines that all she believes and knows about her world will come into a stark conflict when she encounters Walter, a Jewish friend from the past, who stirs dangerous feelings in her. Confused and conflicted, Hedy doesn't know whom she can trust and where she can turn to, especially when she discovers that someone has been watching her. This one has really great reviews, and I love historical fiction set during World War II, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next book I want to talk about is Summer Darlings by Brooke Leah Foster, and this one is set during the splendid summer days of 1960s Martha Vineyards. This novel pulls back the curtain on one mysterious and wealthy family as seen through the eyes of their nanny, a college student who, while falling in love on the elegant island, is also forced to reckon with the dark underbelly of privilege. This one just really seemed very intriguing, and I'm really interested in reading something set during the 1960s, so I'm really excited to read this one. And the last historical fiction that I'm interested in is The Prisoner's Wife by Maggie Brooks, and this one is inspired by a true story of a daring deception that plunges a courageous young woman deep into the horrors of a Nazi POW camp to be with a man she loves. So like I said, I love World War II historical fiction, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. And then last, I'm going to go through all of the thrillers, and the first one is A Good Marriage by Kimberly McCreet, and this one is about a woman's brutal murder reveals the compromises some couples make and the secrets they keep in order to stay together. I'm really excited to read this one, and I'm hoping I can read this one probably next month. The next book that I'm interested in is Ghosts of Harvard by Francesca Stilatella, and this is about a Harvard freshman becomes obsessed with her schizophrenic brother's suicide. Then she starts hearing voices. I've also seen this one on Instagram and have seen amazing reviews, so I am dying to get my hands on this one. The next one is What We Forgot to Bury by MARIN Montgomery, and this one is a truth and deceit blur as one woman's desperation twists into another's desire for revenge in this mind-bending psychological novel. I really love revenge novels, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next one is Two Truths and a Lie by Meg Mitchell Moore, and this one is a warm, witty, and suspenseful novel filled with small-town secrets, summer romance, big-time lies, and spiked seltzer in the vein of Leanne Moriarty. This one just sounds like it's going to be really good, and I know this one is more lighter on the mystery side instead of a thriller, but this one just sounds really great, and it sounds like it's going to be a good summer mystery. The next one I'll talk about is The Wife Stalker by Liv Constantine, and the synopsis on this one says, breezy into the Tony seaside paradise of Westport, Connecticut, gorgeous 30-something Piper sits down roots, opening a rehab and wellness space and joining a local yacht club. When she meets Leo Dracos, a handsome, successful lawyer, the wedding ring on his finger is the only thing she doesn't like about him. Yet, as Piper well knows, no marriage is permanent. This one just sounds so good, and I can't wait to pick it up. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Little White Secrets by Carol Mason, and the synopsis on this one says, for Emily Rossi, life may not be perfect, but it's pretty close. She has a great career, a house in the country, and a solid marriage to Eric, and two wonderful children, tennis superstar Daniel and quiet, sensitive Zara. But when her 14-year-old daughter brings home a toxic new best friend, Emily's seemingly perfect family start to spiral out of control. This one sounds really good, and hopefully I can pick this one up too. And the next one that I want to talk about is This Is How I Lied by Heather Gudenkoff, and this one is about 25 years ago. The body of a 16-year-old Eve Knox was found in the caves near her home in small town Grotto, Iowa. Discovered by her best friend Maggie and her sister Nola, there were a handful of suspects, including her boyfriend Nick. But without significant evidence, the case ultimately went cold. For decades, Maggie was haunted by Eve's death in that horrible night. Now a detective in Greco and 7 months pregnant, she is thrust back into the past when a new piece of evidence surfaces and the case is reopened. I really love to read about cold cases, so I'm really excited to check this one out. The next book that I'm going to talk about is What Lies Between Us by John Mars, and the tagline on this one says, they say every house has its secrets. The house that Maggie and Nina have shared for so long is no different, except that these secrets are not buried in the past. I've heard amazing things about this one, so I'm really excited to check it out. And the last book that I want to talk about is Sister Dear by Hannah Mary McKinnon. And the synopsis on this one says, when Eleanor Hardwick's beloved father dies, her world is further shattered by a gut-wrenching secret. The man she's grieving isn't really her dad. Eleanor was a product of an affair, and her biological father is still out there living blissfully with the family he chose. When her personal life spiraling, a desperate Eleanor seeks him out, leading her to uncover another branch of her family tree, a half-sister. So this book sounds like it's going to be really good, and I'm really excited to check it out. So those are all the books that I am interested in that come out this month. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in any of these books, or let me know if there are other books that you're interested in. And until then, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!